Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Ericka E. Kelly, who is a global speaker, executive coach, and leadership trainer, and best-selling author. Ericka, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. How are you?
Hey, doing amazing. And I'm excited to talk with you because I understand you have a brand new book out that actually hit an Amazon bestseller. So I want to hear all about that. But before we do, give us a little bit of your story and your background and what got you into the leadership and executive coach space.
Yes. Well, I got to the United States when I was 12 years old from Central America. So let me start there because I think it's very significant that culturally I come from a very submissive family. And so here I am living the American dream of opportunity. And I saw the military, the Air Force specifically, as a path for me to have a second chance or possibly have a first chance. And I served in the Air Force for 32 and a half years. So a journey of starting as a medic and then developing leadership skills, mentorship skills, coaching skills, and then ending up my career as the command chief, master sergeant for the Air Force Reserve, which is a major command for the Air Force.
So you know a thing or two. So 32 years in the military, you went well past the 20 that it takes to retire. You went and stayed an extra decade or more. So obviously you learned a thing or two, and then I'm sure that some of those lessons you took in creating this book. So tell us a little bit about at what point did you think people need to hear the story behind Take Charge of Your Military Transition?
Well, this is how I see things. We can learn from books, we can learn from mentors, but I really don't talk or teach or facilitate anything from theory alone. And framing this book, I used myself as an example of how it took someone like me serving 32 plus years in the Air Force transition into retirement, transition into being an entrepreneur and business owner, and that space of time, that space of moving from one world to another world, and being able to assimilate and not get stuck in the middle of the road.
When you describe that, and I want to go deeper on that transition, it brings up a word that I think that you will resonate with: identity. Because whether you were in the military for 32 years or in, the NFL or a professional sports league and then retire, you have a certain identity that now is changing. So talk a little bit about how the transition as it relates to identity, it needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. I'll give you a very quick example. The uniform.
Yeah.
When someone comes and they're wearing a uniform, it doesn't matter what branch of the military you're from, you have a rank, you have a name, you have a career specialty. So just by looking at someone, you know so much about them, which the civilian side doesn't. So there's little gaps, the language, the expectations, something that we think it's normal, that it's not normal. When I talk to individuals about identity, we are, in our military identity, we are the 1%. 1% of our population serves. So how can we then transition that identity into a smooth assimilation to the 99% of the population?
You used the word retire, And I know after 20 years, or in your case, 32 years, you retire, but you're typically not at retirement age like traditionally civilians think about, 67 or 72 or whatever age that is. So when a lot of people that are in the military for 20 plus years, they retire and they're in their, mid 40s, let's just say. Well, you've got a lot of runway ahead of you to still be doing things. And that's where this transition comes in that you're talking about, because your roadmap to post-military success is not just, okay, you put your time in and you've got your pension, so now you can play golf all day long. What is some of the things that people need to start thinking about to successfully navigate that transition?
And that's the magic. The magic is of finishing a fantastic, and I'm going to say fantastic, I'm going to even say magnificent chapter of our lives, and being able not to get stuck and think that our best days are behind us, and start looking at that chapter. What is it that we can use? What is it that we can bring with us in order for the days that are in front of us to be better days, or just another amazing chapter in our lives? But what does it take? It takes communication, and not just communication, Mike, but how to connect with the individuals in their world, not our way, not our language, right? Be
Yeah.
able to transition into a communication phase where it makes sense. How can we be truly intentional on what is it that we want to do in our next chapter?
And I think it is so much mindset, but it's also so much blueprint and checklist and being intentional, because I've never been in the military myself. But from what I understand, you pretty much are told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And you don't need to think about being intentional other than following orders to the best of your ability. So when you are now transitioning into civilian life and you think, okay, now I want to use my skills to do whatever that it is, that intentionality, it could swallow you up to where you feel lost, right?
Absolutely. I call it, we need to learn self-leadership.
Hmm.
In the military, we talk and we do everything in a team. Anything, if we go anywhere, it's like for the Air Force anyway. Where's your wingman? Where's your wingman? So we are, if I may use the word conditioned, but we are conditioned to do
Sure.
things as a team unit, right? Sacrifice for others, serve others, and when we transition, the definition of team looks different outside of the military, Mike. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It just feels and looks different.
Yeah.
So we don't have that team anymore. So now we have to self leadership ourselves in order for us to move forward, and in order for us to have the confidence that we did while in the military in our new environment, which is the civilian world.
And even if you were in leadership in the military, leading a team, I would suspect that self leadership, even though the L word is there, leadership,
Mhm.
it looks so much differently and it's executed so much differently when you're thinking about it on leading your own self to move forward and to have that, begin with the end in mind. And I want to accomplish this, and the end result should be, so that leadership mindset really kind of takes a shift, doesn't it?
Of course, of course. When we are in the military, and you mentioned this, Mike, we're used to someone giving us the margins,
Yeah.
someone giving us the lines of where we can cross or not cross. And as we transition out of the military, what we get sometimes, not all the time, but what we get is a sheet of websites to go
Hmm.
to, some phone numbers that can help us maybe find a job, maybe someone to review a resume. And that's not what this book is about. This book is truly about mindset, how we can communicate better? How can we transition to a different chapter and still bring our good, amazing qualities into that chapter? But the leadership side of it has to come from ourselves. No one's
You
going to do.
know, the subtitle of the book is A 5-Step Roadmap to Post-Military Success. Can you share what those 5 steps are?
Yes, the first big step is just this big picture, this big overview of us, and for us to really be proud of what we have accomplished, and understand that there is a phase in which we have to walk another path, and it's okay. And it's
Yeah.
okay to walk that path. Now, the I think is the second chapter. The second chapter is all about mindset, and how can we start changing the mindset to put um, the oxygen on ourselves first before we put it on others. Um,
That's
and
huge.
that is, Mike, that is so huge, because most of the time, when you come from the military side, it's sacrifice, 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 and now
It
it's
feels selfish.
yes, yes, and now it's like, can you just take a breath and take care of you for a second,
Yeah.
regroup, right? Regroup and then move forward. And then definitely communication. I use, or I talk in the book a lot about DISC and the different personalities, and how we have different strengths, but we have different fears. And depending on what fear we have, then that's going to dictate sometimes how we make decisions and how
Mm.
we get into this loop of, how did I get here? Because I don't want
Yeah.
to be here. And then absolute commitment to success is another of my chapters. And being intentional. Intentionality is important on the path of walking forward. And the last chapter, chapter 6, is You Are Worth It. That's the title of the chapter. We
Man.
are worth it, to go into this transition and find success in a different light.
I think that there's almost like we're all programmed. You hesitated a few minutes ago, like almost like it was a bad thing, but we're all programmed. We're
Yeah.
programmed by our environment, and that's just the way that it is. We're programmed to get up at a certain time and do certain things. So if it's military programming, great, because some of the top leaders in business these days have a strong military background. We applaud that. But I think that same structure all of a sudden needs to be taught how to turn that into your civilian now next step, because like I was mentioning earlier, you might have 20 plus years of more life before you really start cashing it in and going, now I'm going to play golf or travel the world, as full on retirement. So what is that next phase of your life going to be? And it could be 15 to 20 years, and have beginning with that end in mind. And I love the hesitation of, you need to be comfortable working on you. And Jim Rohn, the famous philosopher, has said in the past, boy, the most important thing to work on, and the most way to focus is personal development, so that you're ready to go out there and conquer the world. And what if all you did was work on your business success, but you didn't work on your mindset or your health? Well, if your health fails, you can't really go out and do the business. So it all ties in together, but it really is not a selfish thing. In fact, it's a gift to the people around you to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and all of that. So I highlighted in my mind the word harness intentionality. And I know that is your chapter 5. So we talked about being intentional. How do you harness it?
You harness it by repetition, and it's funny that you mentioned Zig Ziglar. When you said him, I was thinking of Bob Proctor, and
Mm,
how Bob Proctor thinks of or talks or talked about paradigms, and
yeah.
how we just get set into this mindset of, this is who I am. and this is who I am, and this is who I am. And it's no, no, because our thoughts are very powerful. And the more awareness we gain, and the more we are teachable, the more we are willing to unlearn, to learn new things, the better it will be to harness that intentionality of us giving ourselves a command, a little bit of discipline here.
Yeah.
Can I, right, say, I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to take care of my nutrition. I'm going to take care of my mind, and do it.
Yep.
So you harness it by repetition. You harness it by surrounding yourselves with good mentors. You harness yourself by understanding that you are not in the past, that you are creating, right? You're creating a new future.
It reminds me of this example I heard, because in our, I know you're a big fan of personal development and mindset and neuro approach. Like when we have these neuro pathways, if we do repetition the right way, it ends up with the right result. Practice makes perfect is a false statement. Perfect practice makes perfect, because if you practice something the wrong way, you're going to keep on doing it wrong. And I heard this analogy recently where they said the difference between a rut and a grave. So if you are walking, and let's just use in the military, you're marching on dirt. If you just marched in circles and circles and circles, you're going to start seeing a rut where all of these people have now been marching along that same path, and now there's this rut. It might be 2 inches deep, but if you keep it now, not in reality, but if you continue that process, a rut becomes a grave because it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can't climb out of it. So we need to have that intentionality and consistency, but all of that North Star, that compass, needs to be focused on where do you want to end up. And I think that brings me to my last kind of point I want to bring up is one of your teaching philosophies is success versus significance. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, success is a journey that is almost selfish, meaning that, and I learned this from Dr. John C. Maxwell, by the way. Success is this beautiful picture of two things, two highways of failure and success mixed together, and then you have a little spark of yes, good, yes, good, yes, good.
Mm.
And then you find success, and then you get to the top of the mountain, let's say, and you have degrees, you have a rank if we're talking military, or you have a position, and you're like, yes, you can showcase success. But there's a huge difference, Mike, between success and significance, because once you, again, let me use the word transition, when you transition from success to significance, that is when you are taking care of someone else.
Mm.
When you give, and when you take care of someone else, and you are significant in that person's life, now you have arrived at a different level.
Because it's almost like up to that point, you were striving and working and grinding for you to get those accolades, to get that position. And then now when you look at it and go, okay, now I'm going to give back. Now you're shifting your perspective off of you onto helping other people get that same level of success. Well, then in doing that, you then start your journey to significance.
Yes. And then you harvest, right? Before it's just you, but
Yeah.
now the more you give, and the more you take care of others, then you see their successes, and you see them becoming significant, And it's just a beautiful harvest that,
And you start getting that same proud feeling you got when you were on your upward trend of achievement and position. You start feeling that same way. But when you look at your mentees or your people that you're helping to, move along their path, and you start getting that same pride, but it's not within, it is for them.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. I think that what you're doing here is so significant for the people transitioning out of the military, because like you said, having that email or that piece of paper with some links to resources, you're kind of staring at that going, now what? But if someone can follow your blueprint and your path and start getting that excitement and taking care of themselves and seeing where they want to be and being all of these things that you're describing, I would venture to say that that now becomes a super rewarding result for the reader as well as rewarding for you, because now you're showing them that path to success.
I love it. I mean, I know my purpose is people, and I love what I do.
Well, let's wrap up with this, Ericka. It's so wonderful talking with you. If someone is listening to this going, I want a little bit more, how can they best learn about what you do, your speaking, your coaching, your leadership training, and your books?
Yeah, the best way is my website, ErickaKellyEnterprises.com. That's the best way to find me.
Excellent. Well, Ericka, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today.
Thank you, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.